Hello, masters and humans, I suppose, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly My Hero Academia Season 5 discussion videos. Today we're here to talk all about episode 21, but before we get into the video proper, a quick reminder if you haven't done so yet, to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, set notifications to all. Let all of AniTube know that you're here, and, maybe leave a comment telling me how wonderful my hair looks. Lord knows we'll need something to talk about. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this week's episode, I guess. Alright, so I am going to be kind and start with the good, and then we'll get into the not so good, because I don't think this is necessarily bad, and I don't want there to be any confusion on that front. This isn't bad, it's just, I don't know, it's not quite what I had wanted, and I hate that I am now on the other end of this, because usually I would get angry with, I would usually be this guy to say, oh, Margaritas, you can stay mad, but now I am a Margarita. Oh, how the turns have tabled. And now I sit here in my manga reading chair, staring off into space because I am very underwhelmed. I'm very underwhelmed. And knowing that I am underwhelmed because of a Studio Bone show is, I think, what makes this doubly more upsetting. I expect more from Bones, and that is the biggest reason why I am upset. And it's not so much Bones' fault. That's the sad thing. Well, it is Bones' fault, but it's not the staff's fault. And I feel as though that's going to get lost in the weeds, like people are going to just assume that it's the staff's fault. And thankfully, that's not entirely true. I have seen a good number of anime fans who are aware that this is very clearly a producer thing. This is a higher-ups thing. This has very little to do with the actual staff and everything to do with suits and trying to tie the show into the movie and all this crap, and it's unnecessary and it's garbage. Not the episode, mind you. The episode's not... The season as a whole is not trash, right? Because I've seen that tossed around, that it's trash and it's bad, and it's not that it's trash, and it's... I would almost rather have trash, if I'm honest, because at least I can laugh. This season's just... I don't know. It's the season where My Hero really lost a good chunk of its magic for me personally. And it's disappointing because I expect more from them, which maybe that's foolish of me. I don't know. But My Hero was always this show that I found tremendous joy in, and I still do, but it's more from the manga now than it is the show itself, and I'm sad about that. And I think I'm allowed to be sad about that. I'm not shouting from the high heavens that the show is trash. I am not bashing the staff. I'm just disappointed. And I'm going to continue watching, despite my disappointment, because I'm still watching in the vain hope that it's going to get better. And I still think that it might. It's Studio Bones. I have faith in the staff. I don't really have faith in any of the suits in the higher-ups, like in charge of, like, any producers working on the show. I have very little faith in. But the staff themselves, I don't know. I have so much faith, I hit my mic. I don't know. I said I was going to start with the good, and I started by complaining. That's my apology. Let's start with the good. The acting. The acting across the board is very good. As usual, anytime a different Seiyu arrives in the series, they usually bring their A game, because Seiyu absolutely nail it. The thing with the Seiyu in Japan that I find interesting by comparison to the voice actors we have in the West is no matter the project, 9 times out of 10 you're getting their all. I feel like a lot of times in the West we have voice actors who are aware that their talents are being wasted, depending on the series, so they have a tendency to sort of goof off. And I like that. I like that Western Seiyu have fun with their roles, right? But I also appreciate that in Japan, the Seiyu there, they bring their A game every time. Doesn't matter the role, doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter how small. And the one that I would like to zero in on is Curious's Seiyu, Takako Honda, who I know in small things, right? I know her as Momiji's mum from Fruits Basket, or bigger things like Anko from Naruto. But the thing with Takako Honda being shown here as Curious is she could have phoned it in, because Curious is really only in this one episode. She's in more manga chapters than she is in the show, but that's fine. But Curious is really here and then she's gone, right? Definitively. Spoilers, she is super dead. And that's not even a spoiler, you watched her fall from the sky. It's a lot more clear that she's dead in the manga. We'll get to that. But yeah, Curious's appearance, right, is very, very well acted. I think Takako Honda really brings a lot of chaotic, and not so much chaotic energy, but this really sort of crazed energy to Curious, right? Like, she wants the story, she needs the story, right? She's like a reporter that's maybe gotten too involved. And I think that that's really interesting, that Honda is allowed to explore Curious in that way, and that she's able to bring a certain spark to Curious that I think is really cool. And another interesting thing for me is that Curious is colorized, right? So when I knew Curious, I didn't know that she was blue. That was sort of interesting. She's blue with sort of indigo hair. Her design is very unique. I really like Curious's colors. Like, I think her being colorized is fun. That's a huge thing for me, is that seeing this arc in color is cool, right? I like seeing that. And I think the music is still very good, and I think the again, like I said, the acting is still very good. There are benefits to watching the anime as opposed to the manga. You know, you're not going to get the color, you're not going to get the music or the voice acting, but you are getting an inferior version. And again, I know we're still in the good section, but I just want that known. And I think, yeah, the acting is a huge thing this week. It's not that the music is necessarily standout. It's just sort of like, yeah, it's there. Like, the music is there, but the acting is standout. And speaking of acting, Spinner gets dialogue. Isn't that wonderful? You know, that character who should have gotten a good chunk of dialogue. I'm shocked Bones even remembers that Spinner exists. I'm being salty. I am being salty, and forgive me. I actually was going to do this video a lot more angry. I was going to be a lot angrier. Thankfully, I watched Homesaw's video. Homesaw's video just before. And Herm's enthusiasm made me feel better with hindsight. That, at the very least, the story is being told. It's being rushed through. But the bare minimum is being done. Right? And I know that doesn't seem like a benefit, but allow me to stress that there are shows that butcher their source material. This season isn't butchering it, and I'm sure manga fans are going to think that, but it's not true. It's not that it's butchering it, it's that it's rushing it, right? And it's still better than Tokyo Ghoul, because I've seen some people say that this is the new Tokyo Ghoul, the new Promised Neverland, and I don't know what you are smoking, but whatever it is, you need to get better supply, because that is not the case. This is much better than Tokyo Ghoul, right? Maybe Tokyo Ghoul like the first season, but this is much better than Route A or Re or any of that. You know, Tokyo Ghoul or Ray, whatever. Tokyo Ghoul Ray or Route A. This is miles and miles ahead, because that butchered an incredible story. By completely changing things and altering things and then trying to backpedal and fix things, and it was a mess. Whereas this season, it's still sort of rushing a really solid, really solid villain story, right? Because again, before anyone says anything, I know, right? Because I hate when people say this, but I know that in Japan this arc is not viewed as highly as it is over here. I don't care about that. Do you want to know why I don't care? Because I live in Canada. I don't care. I'm giving you the Canadian opinion. If you don't like it, you can stuff it. Right? If you don't like it, you can hit the thumbs down and move on. I don't care. Right? Like, I'm giving you my opinion. It's interesting to hear other people's opinions, but when you use other people's opinions as some sort of safety blanket, I have to laugh at you. Because I don't care what their opinion is. It doesn't stop me from having mine. Right? I don't care what anyone's opinion is. Like, it doesn't suddenly negate mine, you know? I'm interested to hear your opinion if you're going to genuinely give it, and not use it as some sort of defense. Like, the last video I had, someone got angry with me and said, like, oh, you like, I enjoyed the episode, so stay mad. And it's like, okay, listen, just because you enjoyed it doesn't mean that suddenly I have to enjoy it. We could have had a conversation. We could have had a conversation. Apparently, I can't, because I'm stumbling over my words. But we could have had a conversation. Instead, you brought it to this angry place. I am merely voicing my disappointment, and I am not doing it at the expense of the staff, nor the cast, nor the studio as a whole. Right? I am, well, maybe a little bit of the studio. Nor am I doing it at your expense either. I am simply voicing my disappointment. And a big part of my disappointment is the fact that we are stuck, and yes, we're getting into the bad now, that we are stuck in Still Frame City. I certainly hope that you brought your winter jackets, because it is cold in Still Frame City. What do I mean by Still Frame City? Well, I suppose I do mean that there's not... Do you remember... This is what I mean. Do you remember in Season 4? When Mirio went up against Overhaul, and everyone was upset because Mirio, the character who we all love, got still framed to death. When his fight with Overhaul came up, he got a still frame montage where he just had still frames, no animation, just still frames, pretty music, and I appreciated it because I love Mirio. But I remember a lot of people being upset, and manga fans had to point out that, honestly, Mirio only had a few panels in that moment, but they were expecting Bones to elevate it, right? And that's, I think, the thing that upsets me the most, is that you are Studio Bones. Do something. You made Mob Psycho. You made Full Metal Alchemist, Bungo Stray Dogs, Skate. Do something. Animate something. For God's sake, right? Like, if I wanted My Hero to be treated like this, I would have expected it to be made by JC staff. I know that's mean, because I'm somebody who usually goes to bat for JC staff. Like, I do say, like, well, you know, they're not Studio Bones, so cut them some slack. You are Studio Bones. You do not get to still frame your way through an arc. That is weird for you. You're Studio Bones. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain understanding when you take on a show that there's going to be some level of impressive action scenes, right? When I think of Studio Bones, I think fight scenes. It's just true, right? Nowadays, I'm starting to wonder if maybe I should be turning to Mappa, right? And even Mappa has problems, right? Mappa, I don't like the way Mappa treats their staff. And I will say that maybe, like, I'm hoping that if they're turning in stuff like this, that the staff is at least being treated well. That's the only thing I can hope for. Because the anime industry as a whole definitely does not treat their animators well. And I'm not saying to overwork animators, obviously, but I am saying that when you bring me to Still Frame City, you better have a damn good reason. Right? An amazing reason. Because I don't want to go to Still Frame City. It's cold here. And there's trash everywhere. I don't want to be here. But yet here we are, so we just have to make the best of it. Another big thing, a big issue, although I have a slightly less issue with this. I guess I do and I don't, because here's the thing. So this was 4.5 chapters in a single episode. Usually, you can stretch 2 chapters into a single episode, right? This did 4.5. Kind of... almost 5 chapters, because it takes little parts of an upcoming chapter and a few parts of a previous one. So it's more like 5. But it's about, we'll be generous and say about 4 to 4.5 chapters, right? that sounds like a yikes, right? It sounds like a yikes, but you have to keep in mind too that the Toga fight itself is relatively fast, right? Again, Herm pointed that out, and I had forgotten that. So I went back and I reread those chapters, and yeah, like the Toga fight is relatively quick, right? But I think the issue is when I'm reading it, I'm picturing how it's going to be animated in my mind, right? And your mind is almost always going to be, what you have in your imagination is 9 times out of 10 almost always going to be better than what you get, right? So I went into this with those expectations in mind, that I was not going to be wowed completely, that there might be areas where maybe they skim past things that I would have expanded on, or expanded on things that I would have skimmed past, yeah, right? And that's fair. But I didn't expect them to skim past everything. That was a surprise, because the thing is, well, yes, this is a fight, and the fight is relatively quick. There's also a lot of character development for Toga. Here's the thing, right? I went into this expecting Toga to be the focal point of the entire episode, and then twice to be the focal point of the next episode, right? And they get the majority of the episode, but we cut back and forth to like Shigaraki and Spinner, and don't even get me started, right? Because like when I say still frame city, I am almost positive I know exactly what still frame I'm using, and it's the one where he disintegrates a group of people, and Spinner rightfully points out that's weird. It's like I saw him touch one person and multiple people disintegrated. That's bizarre. That is a huge moment in the manga. It gets like a full page, right? And when I get a full page in a manga, I expect a huge moment in the anime, and it happens like that. Like it's just snap, done. That sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That was so lame. That was so lame. That was so underwhelming. And there's so many points in this episode that just make me upset. Like, I get genuinely upset, because it's like, that is so lame by comparison, right? That is so lame, right? Like, the censorship, my god. Like, when Toga does, like, the big Ochako move, right? And drops effort. First of all, Toga using Ochiko's quirk far more viciously than Uraraka ever could, because Uraraka's a hero, right? So you see this vicious moment of what Ravatee's quirk could really do, could seriously do some damage, right? And in the manga, you see them hit the ground, and it is nasty. And here it's just, you see them, and they sort of blow up into goop, right? Not even goop. It's like just blood spurts, like it's a PG-13 horror movie. And then Toga falls down, and that's it. And in the manga, she's looking at them when they fall. In the anime, she's looking away, and the camera's panned up. So not only do you see her staring at them, which is far more, like, in character to me, that Toga would want to see that happen, you know? That she would watch that, right? That she watches them hit the ground, right? You see Curious face plant into pavement and turn to goop, right? Here it's more that sort of she's looking away, because cool guys don't look at explosions and cool girls don't look at goop. I don't know. But I like saying the word goop if you can't tell. But yeah, she's looking away, splat, and then small blood spurts, again, like it's a PG-13 horror movie, and that's it. That sucks. That is super lame. Super lame. And even with Shigaraki, when his quirk goes off, when I watched the anime, I assumed that he turned people to, like, stone or something, then dust. Like, I assumed that, like, when he touches you, you turned to dust. That's not actually what the quirk does. And yet, that's what I assume when I see the anime, is that he's turning people into dust. In the manga, he's literally destroying people. Like, when he touches them, they disintegrate, right? It's not dust. You fall apart, right? It's horrifying. Like, Shigaraki's quirk in the manga is horrifying. In the anime, it's neat. And that's lame, you know? I find that lame. Beats are hit in this episode, right? Beats are hit. But they're not given their chance to breathe. And oh goody, in another list of things to complain about, if you're anime only, what do you think of Redestro? That's my question. What do you think of Redestro? Because in the manga, he is far more intimidating. In the anime, he feels like villain of the week. And cutting this man's intro really hurt him. It really hurt him. Cutting Spinner's intro really hurts him as well. I shouldn't say intro, because Spinner's been with us forever. But it's more that cutting his intro to this arc really hurts Spinner, because Spinner is sort of like the everyman in this situation, and cutting that hurts him. Cutting Redestro's intro really hurts him as a villain, because he's genuinely really creepy and intimidating, and he has like a lot of layers to him that are not being explored, and are just straight up absent in the anime, which is weird. And I know that people say, like, oh, well, you could have rearranged things, right? And that's what I'm complaining about, too, and you just don't understand, is that you could have taken the Shigaraki scenes this week and moved them to another episode and focused entirely on Toga. You could have taken, like, Dabi fighting Ice Boy, whose name I'm forgetting. That should have been saved for another episode as well. I know that in succession that happens that way in the manga, but you're the anime. You can rearrange things and make it fit the show so that you can focus on one character, then another character, then another character. That everyone gets their moment to shine, and you can give moments the weight they deserve. Or you can do it the way you're doing and just this scene, this scene, this scene, this scene, and this scene. Beats are being hit, as I said, they are being hit in succession, but there's no chance to breathe. There's no moment to just stop and breathe. And it is bothering me, because there's a genuine lack of enthusiasm this season. You know? Like, it feels like this season of My Hero doesn't have the same heart behind it that seasons 1 through 4 did. And even season 4 was starting to show signs of this, if you recall. But it still had heart. I don't feel heart in season 5. And I think that's what is upsetting me. And I know anime fans are going to be like, I enjoyed this episode. No, what you enjoyed is the manga. What you enjoyed was the story, because as I said, the bare minimum is being done. The bare minimum. What you enjoyed is Horikoshi's story. You did not enjoy the anime episode, you enjoyed the story. There's nothing about this that elevates the source material. There's nothing about this that is doing anything beyond just moving it from one medium to another. And normally I don't care. Right? I'm not. Like, I'm not usually the manga guy thing is new to me. I am not that guy. At least not right now. The reason why I am upset that it is not elevated is because you are Studio Bones. And that's why I'm upset. I'm just gonna end the video here. And there you have it, everyone. That is it for today's video, and I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot and share if you care. And of course, you can hit the subscribe button as well if you would like to stick around and see more from yours truly. And before we go, as always, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks who support this endeavor over on Patreon or by hitting the join button, our masters. Look at these wonderful people. And if you would like to join these beautiful people, seeing your name scroll past the screen, you can always go ahead and check out the Patreon page or the join button. Either way is $1 and helps us out tremendously. So once again, a big thank you to my masters for helping keep this channel running. And with that said, that is pretty much it for me. So, of course, as always, before we go, clean your room. It's filthy.